Sometimes it leaves me breathless, the love this community shows. Either that or it's all this extra weight I'm carrying around. In case you didn't know, I'm having a baby. Surprise! And so my talk today was inspired by this book that I read when I was pregnant with my first, What to Expect When You're Expecting. So my talk is how to accept when you weren't expecting. And it relates to my life because this little miracle growing inside of me was very unexpected. And so today I want to share a little bit about my own journey with acceptance and this pregnancy and in general acceptance over those last few months of things. And then I also want to go a little more deep in the idea of acceptance and how it can help open us up on this path and experience more love and joy as we live a life of more acceptance. And then I want to also share some ideas how beyond acceptance we can begin to create a new story for ourselves. So about 4 months ago, I was driving down the road to work. I have a 45-minute commute, and all of a sudden, there's no music on in the car, and I just started singing, and that song that I just sang, just flowed out like I had known it, like I had been listening to it on the radio. It just came, and it was so cool to me because that doesn't really happen to me very often when I'm writing songs and singing. And so, you know, in a few days I had it. I had memorized it. I didn't even have it written out, but I could sing it for people. And the message, you know, the living in the flow and those kind of things, I was like, this is so powerful, but how's it related to me? You know, like, I know there's something big here, but I didn't know what it was. And exactly a week later, I found out that I was pregnant. So immediately I went, oh, that's what it's about. That's what it's about, right? So of course I'm in shock, disbelief, you know, fear coming up because it was very unplanned, you know, like we were done, we'd given stuff away, you know, like at least maybe 5 years down the road, but it wasn't in our plan for many reasons. And so of course, what do I do when, you know, I'm getting all these fears and worries about things? I go to Google. So I typed in what to expect when you weren't expecting, because I'm like thinking, well, maybe somebody else, you know, there's got to be other people out there that have just, you know, have experienced the same shock of this unexpected pregnancy. And so I found this great article that I found really helpful for me in this time of fear, and it said just laugh and let it be fun, let it be an easy experience, because the reality is that it's happening, it's here, I can't change it. And so for me that was really powerful. It to me said I need to accept this, but I could choose in the acceptance what kind of experience I was going to have. And so I chose to enjoy it, and I had so much fun. It was like 2 days before Grandparents' Day. I had a blast, like uncovering and unveiling this big surprise of telling my parents, who were absolutely surprised and shocked too, my Aunt Sharon and everybody. It was so fun for me, and that just began this joyous journey of, you know, through the rough patches, finding the joy and the fun in it. So I want to dive a little deeper into this power of acceptance and how we can all experience that joy. In Unity, they have a tool of using denials and affirmations. And they talk about denials as, you know, denying the facts, the feelings, and the emotion, not necessarily denying them, but denying that they have any power over us, and really letting us step into the power that we have the choice of how to respond to experiences. Not that there won't be challenges, but we have that choice to respond. And there's just, in the book, Lessons in Truth, they had one denial that I have a hard time with, and it's that there is no evil. And, you know, sometimes I think about that, and I even say it sometimes, you know, I say, there's no evil. But then my child picks out the Star Wars book that he's reading every single day, and he's running around shooting me and killing me and saying, you're the evil empire, I'm going to get you, you know. And you know, I can laugh that off. It's a great movie. So many people love it. There's so many beautiful pieces to it. But when I, you know, hear someone talking about terrorism and poverty and some of these other stories that we hear homelessness and people sick with diseases. It's really hard sometimes to not get caught up in that idea of bad or evil existing, you know. It feels very real sometimes. So how do we accept some of these expected and unexpected things, or even some unimaginable stories that we hear? Well, I feel like this book kind of says it all. By loving what is. As I kind of have been thinking about talking these last couple months, this book I've been working on reading it, I'm nowhere near finished, but it's been kind of a big piece for me. The author, Byron Katie, she woke up from her own battle with depression and desperation to this absolute and complete pure joy. And she realized that her suffering was gone. So this book came from her experience with that and helping other people find that same freedom, that same, what she calls the work. So doing the work. So in the work, she poses these questions, these 4 simple questions to specific problems we might have. And she states, it's not the problem that causes our suffering, it's our thinking about the problem. Now, in Unity, one of the core principles is our thoughts create our experience. So we're not unfamiliar to this idea of thinking problems. I hear ministers and speakers all the time. Change your thinking, change your life, right? What I really love about this approach is that instead of trying to just let go of the painful thoughts and kind of retrain in the new thoughts, she actually uses the questions to help the thoughts kind of let go of us. So if we're able to ask ourselves, the first question is that statement true? And if we are caught up in a situation or a thought and we're able to ask ourselves, is that true? And we get the answer no, it's much easier for the thought to just go away because it's not true. It's not a true thought. So I started practicing this in my own life, and I wanted to share about my husband was the first person that I kind of did the work on and practiced this idea of, is that statement true even? You know, any thoughts or any things I was throwing at my husband, like I was taking time. And so an example is his shoes. So one of the statements I was saying is, a few of them are, he never puts his shoes away. His shoes are all over, they're left all over the place. And then he should put them on the shoe rack because that's what it's for, right? So I have these statements that I was making about my husband, and then I started, the first one was pretty easy. I'd say, he never puts his shoes away. So if I ask myself that question, is that true? I could pretty easily say, no, that's not true because some of his shoes are on the shoe rack, so he doesn't never put them away. Sometimes he does. So that statement's false, and that was kind of easy. Now, the third one was a bit trickier for me because, the statement, he should put them on the shoe rack because that's what it's for. Now, when I say, is that statement true? I want to say, yes, it's true. That's what the shoe rack is for. But in digging deeper in this book, Byron Katie kind of gave me a little reality check in this section. I just want to read a piece of it for you. What's the reality of it? She says, reality for me is what is true. The truth is whatever is in front of you, whatever is really happening. Whether you like it or not, it's raining now. Not really, but it's cool now. It shouldn't be raining, it's just a thought. If in reality there is no such thing as should or shouldn't. Without the should and shouldn't, we can see reality as it is. And this leaves us free to act efficiently, clearly, and sanely. I needed that last one. Asking what's the reality of it can bring the mind out of its story and back into the real world. So if I'm saying, is that true in this moment, in reality right now, that my husband should put his shoes away, Is that statement true? And I have to say no, because he's not putting his shoes away. My husband's completely happy to leave his shoes where they are for as long as he wants. And so that was really powerful for me because it made me realize that I wasn't accepting my husband as he was and allowing him to be himself. And I was wasting countless arguments and energy and time trying to tell him what to do and that he shouldn't, what I thought he should be doing. The shoes were bothering me. I was the one that wanted them on the rack. So I started putting them on the rack. I started picking them up. If they were bothering me, I picked them up, and I didn't put any pressure on my husband. And oh my gosh, this shift, it felt so good to me. Like the room was clean. My husband and I weren't arguing. I was having all this extra time where I wasn't wasting my energy. It felt so good to me. So I started working a little bit more with other things, and I continued to see this shift happen. I shifted my thoughts, and I released those statements that just simply were not true in that moment, and I attracted more of what I wanted. And then you know what happened? A couple weeks ago, my husband rearranged our shoe rack so all the shoes fit, and now rarely are there shoes left out to pick up. So voila, the law of attraction. I let go, I accepted, and more of what I wanted came to me. I wasn't caught in the negative thinking or the hope of seeing him put it away. I did it for me. I didn't have any alternative motives. I think that's important too. Because if we're doing anything for any reason other than our own happiness, we're not really accepting. We're kind of in a place of resisting. And resisting is not going to change things from happening. Putting energy into resisting, we just kind of get ourselves stuck in this. And have you ever noticed when some of your problems show up again and again and over? It might be that you're resisting that, and it's just going to keep going there. That's how the law of attraction works. Abraham Hicks, a non-physical entity who is well known for the art of allowing workshops, speaks of this great visualization that I wanted to share with you, and actually inspired some of the pieces of my song talking about the flow, living in the flow in the water. It uses our lives as this boat floating down a stream, and the stream is continues to go down. It's unending, unchanging. It's a current in a perfect flow, and much like the law of attraction. But sometimes as humans, we try to resist the flow of life, and we fight against the current. We take our oar and we start paddling upstream, and we're not really getting anywhere. And actually, we're still slowly going down the stream, but we're wearing ourselves out and exhausting ourselves and so tired and getting caught up in this negative state of mind, where if we just let go of the oar, we just let go and let life happen and unfold. We don't even have to turn our boat around. If we just drop the oars, the current will help the boat turn itself around and continue right down the stream. We have to stop trying to control the people, situations, specific outcomes, because it's just not possible to know how and when and what's going to happen. So stop. Stop placing demands on other people and putting expectations on them or circumstances in order to fulfill your own happiness. We create our own happiness. We can have fun doing it. Or you cannot. Or you can. Or you cannot. It's your life, right? You can do what you want, right? We all have that choice. So let's figure out how we can go beyond accepting so we can create in a fun and great way. Abraham also says, when you talk about what you want and why you want it, there's usually much less resistance within you than when you talk about what you want and how you're going to get it. When you pose questions that you don't have answers to, like how and when and where and who, it sets up contradictory vibration that slows everything down. We are energy, and we each are vibrating at different levels, And so the more we resist, the more we focus on the outcome and how it's going to come to us, the slower it can come to us. If we just let go and we just visualize what we want, abundance can flow, we can create. So start big or start small, but start spending those moments dreaming about what you want and why you want it. Don't get caught up in the outcome. Think of this idea of deliberately creating, having fun thinking about all those great things that you want to do and just starting to spark that interest, plant those seeds of desires. Begin to believe it's possible, and your thoughts shift to what you want. And then you will see things start to create. Or don't. Or do. Or don't. Or you can. It's up to you, right? Myrtle Fillmore is a perfect example of acceptance and telling a new story. She had physical illness that was very clear in her life, but she didn't let it affect her. She visualized. She went into prayer and meditation. She found the oneness of God in her, and she knew that if God is inherently good, then so is she. And she began to see to speak gratitude towards her physical attributes and appreciation, and she slowly was able to heal those things. Keeping the non-resistance out. She didn't think thoughts of resistance. She just went with the flow and appreciated and put out there what she wanted. She wanted healing, and she got it. Sometimes our resistance comes from believing that others play a role or have a say in our outcomes and our desires. We listen to someone saying, we can't have this, or why would you want to do that? That's never going to happen, or even we don't want to go, we don't believe we can have something because we think someone else might suffer, or they say that what we're doing will cause their suffering, and we get that in our mind. There's this great story about a couple upon getting married. They had this verbal agreement that they were not going to own any pets. Now Esther, the woman, had always loved and been around pets, and she had a special place in her heart for them. But her husband, Jerry, felt that since they traveled so much leading workshops and were rarely home, that a pet was just too much responsibility, and they couldn't really take the time to have one in their life. So a little reluctantly, Esther agreed. She understood they were gone a lot and didn't see how it might work. But she never lost the desire, and she enjoyed being around animals when she saw them and got to be with them. So one day, they're at this RV, they take their RV around with them, and they're at this campground. And this cute gray cat comes right up to Jerry's leg and just starts rubbing on the leg and meowing, and they continue, they don't know what this cat's doing. It just goes and comes, and they see it this whole week that they're at this campground. It's just going. So finally they pick up this cat and take it to the manager and say, who does this cat belong to? And the manager says, somebody left it here. It needs a new home. Would you like to take it? Well, Esther's like, I don't want to share this long story with you, but I don't really think it's going to be possible for us to take this, But that kind of reawakened that, desire. And suddenly Esther felt like, oh, something she wanted was about to happen, She could feel it coming up inside of her. And so they were getting ready to leave. They were packing up, and they were leaving in the morning. So she turned to Jerry and she said, if that cat is outside our door tomorrow when we get ready to leave, let's take it as a sign, and we'll keep the cat. And surprisingly, Jerry agreed to this. So the next morning, Jerry's outside loading up the RV, no sign of the cat at all. And inside the trailer, Esther's just in her mind going, here, kitty, 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 here, kitty, 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 kitty. So they have to turn on the engine to start the RV and let it rest, let it warm up for about 10 minutes. So she turns it on, and as she turns the engine on, she looks out the window, and way in the distance as the sun's rising, she sees this little animal popping in and out of the field, like jumping up through and then going down in the grass and up And this little gray cat comes bouncing, bouncing, bouncing right up to the front door. Jerry opens the door and the cat goes right into the RV. Esther got what she wanted. She let go, but she manifested her desire. And at the same time, Jerry kind of got what he wanted. This cat was very independent. They built little cat doorways in their home office so the cat can roam free, has access to food and water. So they didn't have to compromise. Neither of them had to compromise what they were wanting. They were both able to find what they were looking for in this perfect cat. We don't have to compromise our desires. We just have to let it show up and enjoy it. We don't have to resist other people's dreams either to bring forth what we want. And we can't bring people to a higher place by denying our own good. Abraham says, you cannot get sick enough to help sick people get better. You cannot get poor enough to help poor people thrive. It is only in your thriving that you have anything to offer anyone. If you're wanting to be of advantage to others, be as tapped in, tuned in, and turned on as you can possibly be. And to me, that speaks volumes to Unity's fifth principle, which says, it's not enough to know the truth of the other principles, that we must practice them through prayer and meditation, and then in every thought, word, and action. We can read all the books, we can hear all the sermons, we can go to all the spiritual retreats. We've really got to practice, though, and live these experiences and learning that we're having. Anybody can share ideas and beliefs with each other, but ultimately it comes back to us to make the kinds of choices of how we want to live. The Bible says, fear not, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. So I invite you to remain open and live from this place of enduring happiness. I think, I didn't speak it earlier, but hold on, let me go back for a second. There's an important piece in my note. Acceptance, for me, is the key to converting momentary happiness to enduring happiness. It helps move us from feeling happy to actually being happy. And so I think that's an important piece. We want that enduring happiness, that ever-flowing happiness. I want to share one last story with you. And this relates to my own life with this idea of deliberately creating. For a long time, I've had some negative emotions about money. I know I'm probably not the only one that sometimes gets this idea of lack or limitation when it comes to money in the world. And when I had my son, I was so happy because we had saved money and I was going to fulfill this desire of mine to stay at home and to be a mom, which I had wanted for as little as I can remember. I was pretending to be a mom with my babies and I wanted to be this stay-at-home mom. Yet I couldn't fully and even enjoy this desire that I manifested because these thoughts and creeps of money kept coming up, and I kept seeing our savings deplete, and even with the efforts of my husband, who has changed jobs and added jobs, and I was babysitting kids during the day, this past year, we were crunching the numbers, and it was feeling like if something didn't shift, then we were going to be out of money before summertime. And in the summer, in fact, one of my husband's jobs, get the changes, and he loses many of his hours as is. So, it's like, what are we doing? And so when winter turned to spring, I started really focusing on these principles that I learned in Unity, like the fifth principle, practicing this prayer and meditation. And that's when I gave my last talk about overcoming fears and really living from a place of letting go and knowing it's going to be okay, and living these truths. And something happened. There was a shift. So I was so appreciative of that opportunity to speak, and it was the end of May, which was summer, right? When we were supposed to be out of money, and that time came, and our finances were still steady. Like, the money hadn't changed, even though nothing that we would seem to see on the surface had really changed in our lives. And then by summertime, I got a new job, and it was the job I had created for myself, exactly what I wanted. It was all of the attributes that I needed it to be to work for me were there. And my husband, his military paperwork came through at the exact same time, and so we started getting money from the VA in that way. And so I just practiced this great gratitude of realizing that I don't know where the money's gonna always flow from. And it doesn't always have to be from the place that I think it should be. It can flow from any number of wonderful places. And I still have these ups and downs, yet I know now through these experiences that it's going to continue to flow to me, even in these rough patches. I mean, adding a child, I could get caught up in, oh my gosh, finances, whoa! Yet I just know that as I open up, I let go, and I let it happen when and how it's meant to happen, that it will all be fine. Through all of the limits of our the limits we receive, we can remain open to our abundance flowing and happening. Each month when I get ready to pay the bills, I've started a new practice of blessing each one of them. I write the check and I bless that I can pay the bill. And every bit of financial prosperity that comes to me, I bless the places that it comes from, and I know that it will continue to flow. If you're waiting for something to manifest in your life so that you can be happy, you may wait your whole existence away. Things and people cannot truly make us happy. Only we can choose and appreciate all those things and people that we are blessed to have and to know. And I want to end today with a little mantra that came to me when we were at our White Stone ceremony last week, and I was writing my word on my stone. So this is something I'm affirming for 2016, specifically today and in the upcoming weeks as we are getting ready to kick off and celebrate a season for nonviolence. And it's known and unknown, seen and unseen. Find peace through acceptance in 2016. Namaste.